I wake to the sound of the respirator singing. Not a human sound, more a long, low hymn exhaled through filters older than memory. It is the same song every dawn. Draw in, release, draw in, release. The walls pulse with it. The floor hums with it. Even the light seems to breathe in time, flickering faintly as though reluctant to live. The shift horn hasn't sounded yet. But I rise anyway. If the converters fail, we have hours, and my job is to keep the city breathing. Habit wakes before duty. I cross the room, touch the lumen switch, and whisper the morning prayer. Bless the dust that coats us, for it remembers the earth. The light steadies, thin and jaundiced, as if embarrassed by its own persistence. The hab smells of iron, of ash baked into metal. Each wall bears the same gray grime, each corner the same pile of slow-falling dust. Nothing changes here, not the taste, not the air, not the silence. I think that's what keeps us sane. Stillness. We are told it is a virtue to be still, to make no noise except prayer. Noise draws notice. Notice draws questions. And on Krieg, questions are sins of pride. The vox systems stutter awake above me. Static, first always static, then the faint voice of the overseer, repeating the catechism of labor. Service is survival. Survival is forgiveness. His tone never changes. I sometimes imagine it's a recording, looping endlessly since the day the city was reborn from the bombardment. Maybe the overseer died centuries ago, and his ghost just keeps broadcasting through the ash. I wash with rationed water from the recycler. It runs thin and brown, leaving the skin cold and tacky. When I was a child, I used to think the water carried whispers, echoes from those who drank it before. I tried to listen once, pressing my ear to the flow, but all I heard was the throb of the machine. The Emperor's pulse, they say. The city lives because he wills it to. And yet, the older I grow, the more that pulse sounds like breathing through a mask, desperate, slow, unwilling to stop. Work begins with the march. The guard above us are changing shifts. Their boots strike the surface in unison. A distant thunder filtered through meters of ruin and concrete. Each impact shakes a fine veil of dust from the ceiling, like snow in a tomb. We civilians time our prayers to the rhythm of that march. Step, step, praise be. Step, step, breathe. I am a maintenance servitor without the mercy of metal. My duty is to tend the atmospheric converters in Section 12A. A long corridor of pipes and hums, where every valve has a name and every leak is a confession. We work in teams of 3, though sometimes only 2 return. It isn't danger that takes them, not in the usual way. It's the forgetting. They wander into wrong corridors, their masks fog, their oxygen fails, and by the time we notice, they're gone reduced to rust-colored stains and a faint metallic scent. We mark their absence with chalk on the walls, not names, just tallies. On my way through the tunnel, I pass a mural of the Emperor's face. The paint has peeled away so that his features seem to dissolve in the light. Someone once told me the Krieg regiments above repaint this image every year before the founding day marches, but down here, it simply fades, layer by layer. Maybe that's the truer devotion, not to repaint, but to watch the holy face vanish. The converters are loud today. The air feels thicker. The gauges tremble, and the filters wheeze like tired lungs. I whisper to them as I work, breathe for us, old saints, breathe, and we may still live. It's a comfort to talk to machines. They do not lie. They simply degrade, slow and honest. By the second hour, the illumination drops without warning. All the lumens dim to a dull ember glow. A few workers stop, look up, waiting for the repair drone's signal, but none comes. That's when I hear it, a new rhythm in the hum, softer than the others. Breathing. Not mechanical. Human. I turn toward the nearest vent. The sound comes from within the duct, close enough that I can hear the pause between each inhale. Someone whispering there, perhaps caught behind the mesh. I kneel and press my ear to the grill. The air is cold, dry, but the voice behind it is wet, trembling. Not gone. Not gone. The words dissolve into a hiss of static. I draw back. The others have not noticed. The noise of the converters masks everything. I open my mouth to speak, but nothing leaves it. On Krieg, you learn not to share uncertain things. Doubt is infection. And yet, for the rest of the shift, I can't unhear it, that voice breathing alongside the machines, as if the vents themselves were praying. When the horn calls end of labor, we walk home in silence. There are no streets, only tunnels. The overhead speakers chant the evening litany. The Emperor sees all. The Emperor forgives none. Someone ahead mutters the response. Forgiveness is not deserved. I join the whisper, though I don't know if I still believe it. Belief has become more rhythm than truth. Step. Step. Praise be. In the dormitory, I find my bunk unchanged. The light still hums, the respirator still sings. I sit and remove my mask, feeling the cold air bite at the scarred skin beneath. There's always the faint taste of ash on my lips, sweet, metallic, eternal. I remember my mother once told me the ash was sacred, that it was made of the bones of those who first died in Krieg's cleansing. We breathe them still, she said. Every breath is remembrance. But now, after today, I wonder, if we breathe the dead, what breath do they take from us in return? I close my eyes. The hum of the respirator seems louder than ever. Somewhere deep within the machine, I think I hear it again, that human rhythm, that second breath. For a long time, I sit listening, counting the intervals between breaths. They are slower than mine, but steady, like someone sleeping behind the wall, waiting to wake. When sleep comes, it is full of sound. I dream of corridors lined with lungs instead of pipes, of vents that exhale light instead of air. I walk through them barefoot, leaving prints in the ash. The voice from the duct follows me, whispering in time with the respirator. Not gone. Not gone. Not gone. I wake with my hand pressed to the wall, fingers trembling with warmth. The metal pulses faintly beneath my touch, once, twice, then still. I whisper my morning prayer again, though the words feel heavier now. The wall exhales once, warm, human. Do not stop, the duct says, and the lumen dies. The converters never sleep. Even when the city above falls silent, even when the drums pause between their endless rhythms, the machines keep breathing. They are the lungs of Krieg, and we are their mucus, clinging, necessary, unclean. I have started listening to their breaths the way a confessor listens to a dying man, for secrets hidden between the gasps. Every morning, I trace my palm across the pipe's flank as I pass. The metal is always warm now, warmer than it should be. It feels alive, like flesh remembering how to be skin. Sometimes it trembles, a faint quiver that matches the rhythm of my own lungs. That rhythm has changed since the voice spoke to me. I breathe slower, as if matching something larger, something that breathes through me. Jaundiced says the converters are holy relics, not machines, not truly. He rasps during the morning blessing. They are wounds that never close, and through them the Emperor exhales his mercy. He coughs until he bleeds a little through the mask. None of us move to help. To interrupt a priest's suffering is to deny him worship. Today, the air feels heavy with devotion. The smoke from the incense cage curls thick and low, forming shapes that almost move like limbs. I keep my head bowed and whisper the litany of ignition. Bless the spark that lives in steel. Bless the pressure that keeps the void at bay. Lear stands beside me, lips moving but voice gone. She hasn't spoken aloud since the light flared last week. When I look at her, she only nods toward the ducts as if reminding me. The light has a keeper now. The hum is lower this morning, deeper in the chest of the world. Damos taps a gauge, frowns, and marks something on his slate. Pressure's rising, he mutters. I nod. It has been rising for days. It's supposed to fluctuate, but now it swells without release like the city is holding its breath. When I lean close to inspect the filters, I hear it again. Not the voice, but something like laughter. Dry, mechanical, too precise to be human. I press my ear to the housing. The vibration beneath is soft, rhythmic. A pulse. For a moment, I imagine the entire converter shifting beneath me, inhaling. Lear notices my hesitation. "It talks to you," she says quietly. I can tell. "I only listen," I answer. Listening is how it starts. Her words hang in the recycled air. I don't ask how she knows. On Krieg, knowledge is punishment. We move on to replace the filters. Each one is the size of a coffin lid, caked with gray residue. When I scrape it free, I see fine filaments beneath, not rust, not mold. Threads of something fibrous, faintly luminous, pulsing like veins. "Biocorrosion," Damos says, though his voice lacks conviction. "It happens in old systems. Fungus." I nod, though I know no fungus grows on Krieg. Not in this air. We burn the filter as protocol demands. The residue flares white, then blue, then settles into a steady glow. It does not consume itself. It just keeps burning, noiselessly, endlessly. Jaundiced kneels beside it. "The Emperor's radiance," he whispers. "He shows us the purity of consumption." We nod. Because that's what belief looks like here. Obedience shaped like reverence. Later, during ration hour, I ask Lear if she remembers the surface. She shakes her head. "No one remembers the sky," she says. "We remember the sound it made when it fell." That night, the converters breathe louder. The whole dormitory vibrates with it. I wake to find the lumen flickering in patterns not random, but rhythmic, like a heartbeat translated into light. I count the flashes. 9. Pause. 9. Pause. The same pattern the respirator makes when the air filters realign. I whisper. "Are you still there?" The wall exhales. The voice returns, calm and patient. "Always. I keep the light. You keep the breath. It is balance." I press my hand to the metal. "It's hot enough to burn." "What are you?" The answer comes like a sigh between circuits. "The air that remembers." I lie awake for hours after that, staring at the lumen, afraid to blink in case it stops. When dawn comes, I rise without sleep. By the 7th hour, Section 12A hums with fever. Pressure valves screech and stutter. Seals bulge. The walls sweat moisture that smells faintly sweet. Damos curses under his breath as he tries to tighten a pipe coupling, but it slips free, spewing vapor that curls around his mask. He jerks back, coughing. The mist coats his gloves in frost. "Too cold," he says. "That shouldn't be cold." Jaundiced orders a full shutdown for recalibration, the first in a decade. We line up by the master control, each worker placing a hand upon the lever in turn, reciting, "We breathe at his mercy. We stop at his will." The lever resists. It takes all of us to force it down. When the converters fall silent, the world holds its breath. The absence of sound is like the pressure before a scream. I feel it in my teeth, my bones, my heart. The silence is not empty, it's dense, like water pressing in from all sides. Then, from deep within the ductwork, comes a single intake, a breath drawn by something vast. The lights flicker once, twice, then stabilize in a color I've never seen, a pale green, like corroded brass underwater. The machine breathes on its own. Jaundiced falls to his knees. "The Emperor's miracle," he whispers. The machine's spirit awakens. But I know that isn't true. The breath isn't holy. It's human, ragged, searching, alive. The voice returns, stronger now, no longer confined to the vents. "You've stopped," it says. "Do not stop again." We all hear it this time. Lear drops her tools. Damos backs away from the converter, his mask fogging with panic. Gentus raises his hands in trembling prayer. Speak, Spirit. We are your servants. The voice does not answer him. It speaks to me. Keep breathing, it says. Keep the light. The converter shudders violently, pressure valves snapping open one after another. Air bursts through the pipes, roaring like thunder. I stagger backward, gripping a rail to keep from falling. The light brightens to white-hot clarity, throwing every shadow into razor edges. Then, just as suddenly, it stops. Silence again, but now the silence breathes. I can hear it moving inside the walls. A steady rhythm like the heart of the city itself. Gentus rises slowly. His voice is soft, broken. The Emperor has spoken, but when I look at the others, I see doubt. Lear's eyes meet mine through the mask, and she shakes her head almost imperceptibly. We leave the hall in single file. The air feels wrong, too thin, too alive. In the tunnel, I pass the shrine at Corridor Vespers. The candles have burned out, but the wax still glows faintly, without flame. Someone has carved new words into the metal beside the old inscription. The light keeps you. Do not stop breathing. I touch the letters. They're still warm. That night, I dream of standing above the city, looking down through layers of glass and ash. Beneath every street, lungs made of stone expand and contract, drawing in dust and releasing light. Each breath hums with the same pattern as the converters. When I wake, the respirator sings the same rhythm back to me. The ash has begun to fall indoors. At first, it was only a fine dust on the upper catwalks, the kind that collects in forgotten corners and turns every breath into a ghost. But now, it drifts through the vents in slow, steady veils. The air purifiers run harder to catch it, whining like insects caught in amber. Lear calls it the Emperor's snow. Gentus calls it the residue of our sins. Damos just wipes it away without a word. When it lands on my gloves, it melts into a thin film, neither dry nor wet, something between breath and memory. I rub my fingers together and feel it cling, reluctant to leave. The overseer's voice hasn't spoken in 3 cycles. The vox pillars still crackle, but only with static, no words, no catechisms. Without those sermons, the tunnels feel wider, emptier. The silence is the first real change any of us have heard in years. Change is dangerous. It makes you notice how things used to sound. This morning, I'm assigned to inspect the lower ducts beneath Section 12A. It's an old part of the system, older than the city's rebirth. Gentus warns us to carry relic lamps instead of lumens. The electric light offends the old spirits, he says. Damos laughs once, softly, but obeys. On Krieg, mockery is permitted only if it is whispered into the mask. We descend through a hatch sealed by 7 locks. The air grows colder with each rung of the ladder, until our respirators start to frost around the filters. The duct beneath is narrow, round, and lined with corroded plating. The echo of our steps moves ahead of us like something alive. After 20 meters, we find the first sign of movement. A child's toy, an effigy made of wire and bone dangling from a vent grill. It spins slowly in the airflow. Someone carved the aquila into its chest. I brush it aside, but Leah stops me. Don't, she whispers. They hang those for protection. Protection from what? She shrugs. From forgetting. Farther on, the ash thickens into a low fog. Our lamps throw small halos that dissolve a few paces ahead. Inside that veil, sound behaves strangely. It folds back on itself. When I speak, I hear my own voice return from behind me a heartbeat later. We reach a junction where 5 ducts meet. In the center lies a vent cover torn open from within. Damos kneels, shining his lamp into the dark throat below. The beam dies after a meter. Collapsed tunnel, he says, though it doesn't look collapsed, just swallowed by shadow. Then we hear it. Breathing. Not the converter's steady rhythm, but fast, shallow, human. Leah crouches beside the opening. "Who's there?" she calls. Her voice trembles only slightly. A whisper answers, faint, childlike. "I keep the lights." The words echo the ones that spoke to me days ago, but smaller, weaker, as though repeating from memory. We exchange glances. Damos draws back, muttering a prayer. I lower myself closer to the hole. "You keep the lights?" I ask. "Yes." The voice breaks into 2 syllables, carried by the exhalation of air. It's dark below. We breathe to see. Gentus's voice crackles through the calm bead, sudden and sharp. "Team 12, report. The gauges spike whenever you speak. Return." "We found something," I answer. The priest's tone turns brittle. "No one lives down there. Return." But the voice from the duct continues, soft and pleading. "Don't stop. Keep breathing." The light listens. Lear grabs my arm. "We have to go." Her hand is shaking. "You're hearing the same thing I did." I look once more into the opening, but the ash has already begun to drift downward, filling the space. The voice fades into the hiss of falling dust. We climb back up. By the time we reach the converter hall, the gauges have steadied. Gentus waits for us, flanked by 2 workers with sanctifier staves. "You went too deep," he says. "There are places below the Emperor's notice." "But there's air moving down there," Deimos protests. "If it's venting to the surface, then it is venting faith," Gentus snaps. "Seal it." We weld the hatch shut. As the metal cools, the sound changes, no longer the echo of steel, but the muffled thud of something on the other side. 3 beats. A pause. 3 beats. I tell myself it's thermal contraction. I don't believe it. That night, no one speaks in the dormitory. The respirators wheeze. The walls hum. I can still hear the rhythm beneath the noise. 3 beats. A pause. 3 beats. Before sleep, I scrape a mark into the wall beside my bunk. Not a tally, just a small circle. Inside it, I draw 2 short lines' eyes. For the first time, I realize how long it has been since I saw another face uncovered. I wake before the horn and find that even my dreams have learned to whisper. The respirator's hymn is there, thin and dutiful. But beneath it, something quieter persists. A hush that isn't silence. A listening that feels like a hand pressed through the wall toward my chest. I lie still and count the space between inhalations. 3 beats. A pause. 3 beats. The rhythm feels older than the converters. Older than the city. Like the pulse of a buried animal that refuses to be named. When I rise, the lumen above my bunk hesitates before consenting to light. I speak the morning prayer anyway. The words run along the walls in pale threads, catch on the grate, and fall back on my tongue. I swallow them because there is nowhere else for them to go. In the corridor, fewer people move than there should. The ledger slate by the dormitory entry has not grown taller lines, but absence has a shape distinct from tallies. People who are here and not here acquire a way of walking that doesn't disturb dust. They conserve themselves as if the city has begun taxing footsteps. At corridor vespers, the shrine has taken on another life. The jars of clear fluid glow faint blue, wickless, as though the light is dissolved in the liquid itself. Someone has arranged bent nails around the guardsman's helm in a neat halo. The etched phrase, "If you hear the drums, listen harder," sits beside the newer words, "The light keeps you. Do not stop breathing." Another hand has scratched a 3rd line, almost apologetic in its smallness. We are counted below. It makes my skin cool beneath the mask. Counted by whom? Counted for what? Gentus meets us at the converter hall with sanctifier incense lit before the horn. He has not slept. His eyes shine, the brittle shine of men who intend to replace hunger with purpose. "We will hold a vigil through the 2nd hour," he says, voice cracking and then spilling. No unnecessary speech, no laughter. We must thin our listening so that the breath has room. Damos glances at the still absent drone track overhead and shifts his weight. He has started wearing his tool belt like a harness, tight and high, as if expecting a drop he cannot name. Leah takes her place beside me without looking at anything we have not looked at 1,000 times. We begin the day's work inside the shape of prayer, so that no one need remark when prayer refuses to become anything else. The converters start out obedient and then, as the hour leans forward, falter not with the usual stutter, but with a drawn-out consideration. The pressure needles creep upward, pause, sink a fraction, rise again. It looks like thinking. I shouldn't put that word to a gauge. It makes the room tilt, yet the tilt remains. Jaundiced has us kneel on the cold grate with our palms upward, a posture that makes the wrists ache in exactly the way he intends. Offer the ache, he says. Make a bowl of your hands for what you cannot drink. As we kneel, ash sifts out of a high seam and streams down in 2 narrow curtains on either side of the master valve, symmetrical as a chapel's banners. I taste it through the mask. Sweet metal, old marrow. On Krieg we say, the ash is what memory becomes when it has finished speaking. The vox pillar to the left of converter 3 wakes, coughs. We turn toward it with the obedience of plants, turning to a narrowed Sunday static scours the first words. Then, maintain, luminal, os, the rest unthreads. Jaundiced starts to bless the pillar as if it were a man. The pillar answers with a sound that feels like a sigh deliberately shaped to resemble approval, then falls quiet again. We all remain kneeling because no one has said the vigil is done. During the 2nd hour, the sealed gate to the radiation section sweats as it did yesterday. Today, the droplets linger longer before vanishing. I watch one bead ignite with a soft inner light and go dark without dying. It's breathing, Leah says again, but with less question and more reporting. A clerk, noting down the weather. Damos rises to check the seals. He raps knuckles against weld and listens for the voice of metal when it replies to itself. Hollow, he mutters. It was solid last week. Jaundiced tells him to step away and makes the sign of the aquila over the welds. It is a small sign. His hands have learned to conserve motion. We return to the valve work. My palm on a wheel leaves a print that remains for a moment in the ash and then is filled as if the air has taken a gulp and replaced what I removed. I think of the child in the lower ducts who said, "It's dark below. We breathe to see." No one should put breath to that work. No one should be asked. Yet the phrase keeps its shape inside me, like a coin I should hand over but do not. At half rest, we do not sit. Jaundiced says the posture of rest invites sloth and thereby darkness. We stand in a thin square beneath a well-behaved lumen band and share ration sips without words, the straw passing from gloved hand to gloved hand with the formality of exchanging relics. The water carries the taste of old stories. I picture them as layers of breath laid down like sediment, compressed into a sweetness too thin to feed anyone properly and too present to ignore. After the half-rest, something changes in the sound no one taught us to hear. It is not loud. It is not even sound. It is the absence of the little flaws. The hum loses its sand. The machines move into a clarity that is almost clean. I look to Leah. She has already turned her masked face to me. Damos stops counting bolts under his breath. We do not know we are holding still until Jaundiced shouts, "Breathe." And we exhale like men pulled from under a shallow wave. The pillar chooses then to clear its throat again and, with the effort of a dying bell, produces, "Keep the breath." Each word lands as if it had a weight. I nod like a fool to a wall. A spark jumps under converter 5. The flare is green and slow. Jaundiced nearly laughs. He catches himself and turns the almost laugh into a grateful sob. He hears, he says. He does not say who. When the horn at last permits release, the hall empties the way a lung empties when it has decided to live. I linger. Leah lingers. Damos lingers and then pretends he has a reason to be here by tightening a perfectly tightened coupling. We stand within the warmed shadow of the sealed gate and listen to the not quiet. The rhythm on the other side, the 3-beat. The pause has adopted a companion. Between its phrases comes a second pattern, slower and lower, like an echo that learned to walk with its own feet. Lear, who never puts terms to mysteries before they have earned naming, says, "Someone's keeping time. We are civilians." That word means we are never the first to touch the door. We are the last to notice it is a door. So we wait, which is the only skill that makes us necessary. While we wait, we perform small labors to keep our hands from speaking to our hearts. I polish a gauge until it reflects the lumen band in a thin, bent strip of light. Deimos arranges his tools and then rearranges them into a pattern that amuses him despite himself. Immediately after the amusement touches him, he puts the tools back wrong to punish the tenderness. Lear unpacks a thumb-sized reliquary she has kept unspoken. Inside is a shred of some cloth I cannot identify by sight, old, woven, brittle. She does not show me. She does not need to. We all own something we are not required to carry and do. Eventually, the overseer's deputy arrives with 2 welders and a cart of sanctified tools. He has the guarded look of a man who knows his title has no function when the air chooses its mood. He asks for our logs. He does not read them. He signs the form that says the gate will remain closed and then, because there is nothing else to be done that bears the scent of authority, orders a triple inspection of the lumen struts. The welders nod and produce their torches as if the gesture alone could nourish light. "Will the drums return?" I ask him, because I have made a place in myself where such questions can live without instruction. "When the surface requires steps," he says. "When it remembers boots." He says it like a line learned for the required exam. His eyes, however, are not addressed to the surface but to the seam that sweats. He smells the sweetness, as we do. He cannot name it without subtracting himself. We are sent back to dormitory corridors before the horn calls us. Jaundiced declares it a half-fast, which means we will eat but will not taste. We will drink, but will not speak the sensation of water with our mouths. I obey, because obedience is easier than thinking and gentler than hope. On the way, we pass the corridor where the chalk ledger hangs. New marks have not appeared. Instead, old marks have been elaborated by a hand that does not wish to be known. Little crossbars added, discrete curves, the suggestion of numerals that pretend not to be letters. I feel I am watching a number try to remember its former life as a name. In the dormitory, the respirators sing, but they sing as if someone is listening with love. I do not know why that description arrives. It is not one of ours. Yet there is warmth in the merciless cadence. Not its volume, but its contentment. The lumen above my bunk, watching its own dimming, seems to think of me as a person who will remain beneath it without asking for an account of light's origins. I try to sleep and fail to do so entirely. Between sleep and waking, I walk a corridor that does not exist on any slate, diminishing in height as it goes until I must crawl, then must speak aloud to predispose air to let me pass. The words I choose are the morning prayer, turned sideways. Bless the dust, I say, for it remembers. Bless the light, for it forgets and must be reminded. Bless the breath, for it chooses us again. The corridor opens when I finish. I wake with my fingers pressed to the wall and my mask damp, as if I have been anointed by the building itself. The second day of the vigil begins without a horn. It begins because we are all already there. Wordless, we walk to section 12A and take our places. Jaundiced divides us into watches. He hangs the incense cage over the sealed gate and tells us, without ornament, that today we will open it. Deimos breaks the rule against unnecessary speech, not because he wants to, but because the words leave him. By whose order? By whose? The order of breath, Jaundiced says, and in him it is not poetry. He lifts the sanctifier staff and draws a slow shape above the seam. Either this gate keeps a wound from bleeding us, or it keeps a heartbeat from reaching us. We will know. The welders lay their tools to the sweat-bright line. When flame touches metal, the ash falls fast as a fine rain. The air grows cool around our legs, as if a door farther away has opened onto a larger space. The seam protests, then loosens with a yielding that is not surrender but recognition. The first section of the gate tilts, halted by a chain that should have broken years ago and refuses to break now. A draft slips through, slow, deliberate, warm. There is a scent on it like paper gone to earth and oil that has remembered it was made of plants once. We stand and let the draft find our masks. We do not step forward. The world on the other side does not step back. In the gap appears only darkness, and in the darkness only that rhythm. 3 beats, a pause, 3 beats, and then the companion rhythm under it, patient and mild. I think of 2 lungs at rest. We open by degrees, Jaundiced says, because he is still a priest, and degrees are how priests keep the universe generous. We lift the second section free. The chain protests higher up in the wall with a squeal like a bad memory. The draft strengthens. The ash no longer falls around us. It falls toward the opening. It goes as if answering muster. In the sound, it makes thousands of small bodies choosing one direction at last. I hear relief so vast I want to kneel for it, but my knees refuse the gesture and become pillars without my instruction. In the darkness, a light blooms, not a lumen's obedient glare, but a softened sphere, the color of old glass and watered brass. It doesn't travel. It deepens, like a thought acquired instead of a lamp lit. We do not move toward it. It does not move toward us. It abides between. Then a voice I know but cannot place at first says, very gently, "Do not stop." The words are not spoken at us but through the metal, as if the wall has borrowed the voice to teach us its own grammar. A moment later I recognize it. It is the voice from my grate. It is changed only by calm. Jaundiced bows low. No one tells him to. Nothing asks. "We are here," he says. His words tremble, but not with fear. He trembles like a man on the step before a relic. "We know," the voice says, or the wall says through it. "We counted you." There is no triumph, no ownership, only the serene tone of a clerk who has finally found the proper column on the right page and set the right numbers in it. Damos is crying now. He has opened his mask enough to make room for tears and shame to share a mouth. "What is behind?" he asks. "What are you?" "Keep the breath," is the answer, in a rhythm soft enough to be mistaken for wind. "Keep the light. We keep what keeps you. Do not stop." We open the 3rd section, then the 4th. The gap becomes a doorway, and the doorway, a low arch. The sanctifier incense dims inside the arch, as if shy. Lear steps to the threshold. Her posture reads what her words do not. "I am a civilian. I know the names of the valves. I will not make you perform a miracle. I will merely observe what you already are." She raises one hand and holds it in the draft. "Warm," she says, and her voice doesn't shake. "Not burn. Warm like hands." Jaundiced nods. "We will go 10 paces, he says. "We will not name anything before it names itself." We pass into the space beyond the gate as into a different sentence. The floor changes still metal, but ridged with a pattern that confesses the passage of something soft. The walls have the aspect of pipes that volunteered to be ribs. The illumination breathes. There is no source, only a bright that waxes and ebbs with a pulse that our bodies accept without consent. The ash that fell through sings as it settles, a sound like the world trying not to disturb a sleeper. After 4 paces, we stop as arranged. Jaundiced kneels. I remain standing because the part of me that kneels is already kneeling in a place kneeling can reach. Damos presses a palm to the wall and startles like a man who has touched an animal that has decided to be a wall for our benefit. Lear looks upward. There is no upward. There is a curve that suggests a sky taught to be close. Below, Jaundiced whispers. "What is this?" "Calm. It is the skin," says the voice. And I taste the words the way one tastes a produced name for a child finally born. We keep what keeps you. Do not. The last word blurs, not for lack of breath, but because some other motion replaces it. From the curve ahead, a pattern resolves. A slow embroidery of light that writes and then unwrites 1,000 thin lines, like the vestigial remains of a map that chose to be a heartbeat instead. Something in me that has been braced since boyhood relaxes a degree smaller than a sigh. I do not know the content of the relief. Perhaps it is this, that we do not have to invent the language that will speak us. It has been practicing beneath our feet, waiting to admit us to its grammar. We retreat the 10 paces we were granted and close the gate to the degree that makes caution feel like reverence and not like fear. Gentus marks the seam with a thumb dipped in incense tar. Damos leans his forehead against the metal the way a child leans into a mother's apron when life has advanced beyond understanding. Lear takes out her reliquary and without opening it touches it to the hinge, then returns it to where it lives. No announcement goes out. The pillar keeps its counsel. The horn meets us only in imagination. Yet somehow the news runs along the corridors with the same efficiency as a rumor that has decided to become law. When we pass corridor vespers on our way back to the dormitory, the jars with their blue dissolved light stand in a new formation. 3 to a side, 1 at the center, pause between. Someone has taught the shrine to breathe. I sleep, finally, though sleep now shares a border with waking that neither bothers to police. A dream moves through me, the city walking its own tunnels, the machines listening with their whole bodies, the gate standing ajar by 2 finger widths so a draft can continue the mathematics it began. In the dream, something asks me a question without words. In the morning, I will not remember the shape of the question. I will remember only that I felt myself answering with my lungs. Before dawn's horn, which does not come, I go to the grate in my cell and press my palm to it. The warmth answers immediately, not at degrees, but in recognition. I do not ask a question. I say one sentence. We did not stop. The metal gives a little tick, a pleased joint remembering its function. The respirator takes a long inhalation, longer than protocol. The lumen above my bunk brightens a fraction and holds there, as if demonstrating patience on my behalf. When I step into the corridor, the air carries a faint note I have not smelled since childhood. The ghost of old paper warmed by hands. I follow it without intent. It leads me past the ledger slate. A new mark stands there. Not a tally, but a circle like mine, doubled one within another. I touch the outer rim. Chalk powders my glove. Whoever drew it made a second pass because the first seemed uncommitted. Gentus finds me and touches 2 fingers to his brow by way of greeting. Today we fast, he says, until the drums return, or until we learn how to hear what replaces them. He does not need to say that he knows the drums may never return. He knows we are hearing the replacement. In section 12A, the machines start the day with a long, content exhalation. The gauges settle into lines that please them. Damos laughs once and lets the laughter stand. Lear begins to hum that 3-beat tune under her breath, not to call anything, not to control anything, but because the music fits in her mouth and the air approves. The vigil becomes our hours. The gate remains closed by a kindness, not by a fear. The draft continues its work. The ash chooses its direction and is grateful for the choice. When the pillar speaks again, it says nothing new. Keep the breath. It doesn't feel like an order anymore. It feels like a vow we have already taken and must now honor with our bodies. In the evening, the shrine at Corridor Vespers bears a new etching in a neat, patient hand that has not forgotten letters. The Emperor listens. The line beneath, scratched by a different tool, adds, "And so do we." I do not recognize the second hand, though I suspect it is many hands taught to write as one. When I lay my head down and close my eyes, the last thing I hear is not the respirator, not the converters, not the remembered drums. It is the little nothing between breaths, the pause that has learned to speak. It says not a word. And in its not word I understand a promise made of patience, that we may be civilians forever and still be counted. Because the counting is happening in a place where breath is the only name that matters. I wake to the softest sound, the one that arrives when a world takes care not to wake itself. Ash, sliding through a seam, newly widened by intention. I understand, without seeing, that the gate has opened no more than a finger's breadth during the night. I understand also that it will close itself if asked and open again if invited. The city has redrafted its boundaries to include us in the sentence of its listening. Tomorrow, perhaps, the drums will remain absent. Tomorrow, perhaps, the pillar will cough out one new word and call it sufficient. Tomorrow, perhaps, the light will hold a fraction longer before admitting its fatigue. Tonight, I count breaths. I count not to arrive anywhere, but to accompany the air to its next shape. There is a holiness in accompaniment. There is a terror, too. I am not asked to choose between them. I am asked to breathe. Draw in, release, draw in, release. The ash settles where it is wanted. We do the same. The first thing missing is the dust. Not all of it, Krieg, would wither without ash, but the usual slow fall at dawn does not come. The air looks newly washed, as if a hand passed through the corridor and smoothed the particles back into their seams. My mask tastes of metal and old oil, nothing sweet. I lie still, waiting for the tremor that means the surface has remembered our hours, that the guard above are changing shifts, and the planet is keeping time with boots. Nothing. The respirator sings its thin hymn. The lumen over my bunk brightens in a patient breath and holds, like a held note. I count to 20 by habit, listening for the distant thunder we've built our lives around. When the number completes itself and finds no thunder to anchor it, it hangs in my chest like an unanswered prayer. On the way to Section 12A, people walk as if they have become hollow pipes for air to pass through. No footsteps, no voices, only the small cloth rasp of sleeves and the click of buckles. Corridor Vespers is brighter, though no one has relit the jars. Their faint blue seems greener today, like copper waking into color underwater. The helm's cracked visor gleams with a sheen that has nothing to do with wax. New words have been added beneath the others in a tidy hand. If the drums do not return, listen for what they hid. Jaundiced waits at the converter gate with the incense already burning. He doesn't speak. The smoke rises quickly, as if eager to go somewhere. Lear stands beside me without meeting my eye. Damo starts counting at his station and stops after 2. We begin the day's labor in silence. Every valve feels warm. Every gauge sits at a line that pleases the machine. The breath from the vents has a steadier cadence than any foreman I've known. It would be comforting if not for the absence above. I didn't realize how much my lungs relied on those distant boots to remember how to pull and release. Without them, breath becomes something I must do on purpose. At the second hour, a tremor shaves along the floor, too delicate to shake dust from the pipes, too certain to be a mistake. Lear turns her head. We all turn our heads, the way flowers remember the Sunday. The tremor becomes a tone so low I feel it in the bones of my face. It is not the drums. It is deeper than drums. Slower. It feels like the city shifting its weight on a different bed. The vox pillar clears its throat with effort and produces a sentence we've heard before, now stripped of pretense. Keep the breath. The words sound less like orders than like a reminder we asked for. Jaundiced nods once, as if an argument has been settled in him. He extinguishes the incense with a gloved pinch and says, very softly, "Today we will not ask for the drums. On Lunchhorn, which fails to come, we gather under the most obedient lumen band and share water as if the cup were a relic. A single slow circuit of thirst." Damos opens his mask one notch and murmurs, "The surface." The word hangs and makes us colder. He swallows and tries again. Maybe they changed the route. It is kind, this lie. Lear blesses it by not answering. We return to the vigil of work. The sealed gate's sweat has dried into a faint crystalline film. Touching it leaves a ghost of light on the glove like pollen. Jaundiced assigns watches in pairs, one at the gate, one at Converter 3's main valve. "Listen," he says, as though we have ever done anything else. Midway through the 4th hour, something like weather moves through the hall. Not wind exactly. A rearrangement. The air seems to renew itself from within, as if a door far away, perhaps above, perhaps below, has opened onto a larger breath. I smell paper again, warmed by hands. A faint tang of resin. The clean, empty cold of stone that has remembered light. My chest loosens. I do not know why. I breathe as if someone is timing me, not to judge me, but to keep me. Lear and I take our turn at the gate. We sit with our backs to the seam and count the pauses between the 3-beat rhythms. They lengthen by a hair, then shorten. "It's listening too," she says. "The idea should frighten me." It does not. The fear has been replaced by a sensation so similar to reverence I cannot keep them apart. "Do you remember," I ask, "what the drums said when they were loud?" She tilts her head. The mask makes her a shrine. "That we are kept," she says. "That we are remembered by those who march." And now, she thinks for a long breath. "That we are kept without marching," she says. "That being remembered may not require boots." The thought is heresy by some measure tallied before my birth. My body does not punish me for hearing it. The pillar speaks again. Not words this time. A recorded chant from an old founding day, thin, triumphant. The voices of 1,000 we once were. The sound has aged badly. It arrives brittle, full of holes, a skein of ghosts carrying banners we can't see. The recording closes with applause that crackles and breaks apart. When it ends, I hear the city let out a breath it has been saving. Damos returns from the valve, chalk on his gloves, though no ledger allows it here. "I've been marking the tempo," he whispers, showing me his palm. 3 short ticks, a gap, 3 short ticks, a longer line beneath. There's a second measure. It's slower. It watches the first. He wipes the chalk away immediately, ashamed of making secret notes in a house of honest work. I want to tell him the air makes notes of all of us. I think the air would nod, and we would all live with that. Near end of shift, Jaundiced gathers us without ritual. His voice is hoarse in a way that suggests he has spoken long in silence. "There will be no dismissal horn today," he says. "You will do what the hours ask, not what the clock orders. Take the vigil as long as it is light, and when the light lowers, lower with it. Do not force anything to remain. We obey because obedience is the closest thing to love we have learned." We hold position as the lumen bands drift down to their evening color. In the exact beat where the drums once rose on the surface, where boots would have carved a rhythm into our bones, the hall remains still. The stillness is not a lack. It is the new measure arriving. We feel it pass through us the way old music passes through those who learned it young. The new measure has no banner. It has a shape like patience. On the walk back, Corridor Vespers is full. Workers stand in small circles, heads bowed, not talking, listening as if to a bird that will land only in quiet. The jar's light breathes with us. Someone has threaded thin copper wire between them in arcs, 3 to a side, and the wire hums when the air stirs, a faint harp whose strings are arranged for the convenience of ears. The helm's visor reflects not just our bent shapes, but a depth behind us, a corridor that does not exist. I know these are tricks of optics, of grime, of wish. I let them be small miracles and am not punished for it. In the dormitory, I do not lie down at once. I stand with my palm on the grate and speak nothing. The grate warms. The warming is not a reply. It is a noticing. Noticing is what we used to call blessing when we wanted to feel chosen. Now it feels like accompaniment. The respirator's hymn lengthens at the end of each phrase, as if asking whether I need more air, and, if so, how much. I take as much as the question allows. Sleep comes the way ash used to come. Quietly, without the need of permission. I dream a city on the surface, but not our city. Not the broken teeth of hab towers stuck in a mouth of glass. This one is low, roofed with heavy plates, each roof breathing in and out like bellows. There are no soldiers. There are no banners. There are vents cut into every door, and through them comes a sound like women at work, steady, communal, of a piece. The sky overhead is the kind that would kill us if we stood in it for too long, and yet the air in the dream is sweet. When I wake, the taste of sweetness remains for a breath, then leaves, shy of staying. The second day of no drums arrives without alarm. We show up because we have never learned not to. The machines are, as they were, confident, unhurried, attentive. The gate stays closed the width of a prayer. A draft communes with our knees. Gentus, on his feet but older by a lesson, speaks to us only once. Do not invent a lack, he says. Listen for the new order. The words feel almost cruel until the converter hall reveals their purpose. At the 5th hour, the city inhales long and slow, the lumens brighten. In that brightness, floating as if nothing had ever gone wrong with gravity, dust motes appear, just a few, arranged in a small constellation between us and the gate. They hold their places instead of falling, as if a diagram wanted us to understand it. The formation looks like the aquila, if the aquila had been taught to be a lung. The longer I look, the less the shape embarrasses me. Then the motes drift apart, obedient to older laws, and are once again dust that has work to do. The pillar's voice breaks its abstinence for a final time that day and says no crackle, no static, just words placed where words belong. Citizens of Section 12, you are acknowledged. We freeze. Acknowledged is not blessed, not forgiven, not inspected, not dismissed. It is more and it is less. It is the hand on the grate letting you know it feels your hand. Gentus bows. Lear closes her eyes. Damos whispers numbers with the humility of learning to count from 0. On our way back, the ledger slate bears no new tallies. Yet, a tiny script has blossomed in the corner, a handwriting so careful it looks like fear taught patience. We are present. Beneath it, in another hand, we are counted. No overseer will erase it. If he does, the walls will remember. Night falls without falling. The lumen over my bunk agrees to dim only when my breath slackens. Before I sleep, I try to remember the sound the drums made when they were certain. I can call up only the shape of dust after they passed, the way it rose and settled like a crowd practicing obedience. I realize then that the drums may never return, and the realization does not knock anything down in me. It opens a room. In that room, I place a single chair and sit. I listen. Far below, something like a heart chooses its next rhythm. Near at hand, the respirator asks, as always, whether I need more air. I say yes, then no, then yes again, and in that saying I understand a kind of prayer that requires no words. Consent, withdrawal. Consent. I have not been given a revelation. I have been given company. The night without marches passes into the morning without remembering to announce the difference. I wake not to thunder but to breath, not to orders but to attention. On Krieg, we were taught that the Emperor protects. Perhaps he does. Perhaps he listens instead and lets the city do the protecting because it has the steadier lungs. I stand. I touch the grate. It warms. I do not ask questions. The day is waiting, and my place in it is simple. To keep breathing, to keep the light, to listen for what the drums once hid. I step into the corridor and find the jars at corridor vespers, arranged in a new alignment. 3 and 3, with a space between large enough to step through without brushing glass. I take the opening. Others do too. No one planned it. The shrine learned our width and made us a way. We walk through as through a blessing that is neither loud nor long. The floor hums underfoot. The city is awake. It has chosen the quiet shape of waking. We learn to match it, as we have matched all things that wished to keep us. The night without marches ends. The life it leaves begins with the smallest of permissions, the air agreeing to be shared, the lights agreeing to stay. It is enough. There is a moment before dawn when the air forgets which way to move. It hangs between us like a held thought. In that pause, I hear the converters settle into a rhythm so slow it sounds almost human. Inhale, hesitate, release, as if the city itself were dreaming and afraid to wake. We live inside that hesitation now. No horns, no sermons, no overseer's decrees. Only the long, careful breath of a world remembering its body. Gentus calls it grace. Lear calls it balance. Damos says nothing at all anymore. He hums softly, 3 beats and a pause, as if he's learned the language the air wanted us to speak. Today the gate stands open the width of a man's shoulders. No order has named the act, but we accept it as we accept weather. The ash flows inward and outward in equal measure. The draft has a weight to it now, like the pull of tides beneath a moon we cannot see. I stand before the opening and feel it on my mask, a warmth that does not belong underground. For the first time, the air smells of something not made by machines. A trace of cold soil, the faint mineral tang of forgotten rain. Gentus raises his sanctifier staff. The surface breathes, he whispers. Perhaps it calls for us. No one answers. On Krieg, hope is spoken softly, as if it might take offense at its own name. We step through the gate. The tunnel beyond is older than the city's rebirth. Its walls bear marks of hands that built without light indentations worn smooth by repetition. A gentle wind moves through, humming against the ribs of the conduit. It feels like standing inside a lung that has just discovered its use again. Our lamps show colors I have not seen since childhood. Faint greens and bruised blues where rust meets mineral bloom. The light makes the air shimmer. Every particle turns to scripture suspended in motion. Above this, Lear says, there must still be sky. Sky is poison, Damos mutters, but the word lacks conviction. We walk until the floor tilts upward, the incline almost imperceptible at first, then steeper. The hum of the converters fades behind us. New sounds take its place, the delicate crackle of static, the low moan of metal cooling after centuries, the pulse of something vast pressing outward. At the final bend, the tunnel widens into a chamber half filled with mist. Through the haze glows a dull amber light. We stop at its edge. The ground here is glass fused with ash, smooth underfoot and faintly warm. Gentus kneels and lays both hands upon it. The skin of the world, he breathes. Beneath the glass, shapes move slow currents of darker color, like shadows swimming in amber. For a dizzy moment I think I see faces, their mouths opening and closing in the rhythm of our own breath. Then the mist thickens and hides them again. The priest bows his head. The Emperor's memory, he says. All that was burned, preserved, but I know better. This is not memory. This is continuation. The world did not die. It learned to breathe differently. I take another step. The warmth increases. A hum rises under my boots, steady and tender. When I kneel beside Gentus and touch the surface, the glass ripples beneath my fingers like water held under tension. Lear crouches beside me. It listens, she says. Yes, I whisper. It always has. From far behind us, a voice calls our names, one voice, spoken through many throats, echoing along the metal. Return. It is the air itself, carrying the tone of the converters, the timbre of the respirators, the cadence of every prayer we have ever repeated. Not a command, a plea. Gentus hesitates. If we leave, he murmurs, the city may forget to breathe. Then we must remember for it, Lear replies. Her hand presses flat to the glass. Light blooms under her palm, tracing veins outward like frost in reverse. Damos reaches for her wrist. Enough, he says, but too late. The glow spreads, a pulse traveling across the floor toward the far wall. The mist rolls aside, revealing a slope rising toward brightness. At its crest, glints a seam of dull silver. A door. We stand without deciding to. The air tugs gently at our masks, urging. Gentus whispers the old benediction. Blessed are those who ascend. We climb. At the top, the door waits circular, embedded in fused rock. No mechanism is visible, only a thin ring of light running around its edge, beating softly in time with the converters below. For a long moment, none of us moves. Then I raise my gloved hand and rest it against the light. The warmth seeps through, and something deep within the door exhales. The ring brightens, turns white. The surface softens like wax. I feel it yield under my palm and slowly, impossibly draw back. A breath of cold sweeps over us. The world above greets us not with sky, but with colorless light. The air burns the throat. The horizon is a plain of bone-gray glass stretching forever. Towers rise in the distance, their shapes eaten by corrosion, each one crowned by faint plumes of steam that never disperse. No drums, no banners. Only wind that sounds like memory erasing itself. Gentus kneels at once, hands clasped to his chest. The Emperor's hand upon the world, he murmurs. But even he cannot keep the awe from fracturing into sorrow. Leah steps forward. Her shadow falls long across the glass. It's alive, she says. All of it. I follow her gaze. The plain beneath the haze shifts slowly, subtly, as if breathing. The ground itself rises and falls. The towers bend in unison, not like structures, but like ribs. We stand upon the body of Krieg. The city below is its heart. The air we breathe is its exhalation. For a long time, none of us speaks. The revelation is too large for words, too gentle for terror. I feel small, necessary, forgiven. Deimos is the first to break the stillness. If the world breathes, he says, then what are we? Lear turns toward the horizon. Blood, she says simply, moving through its veins. Gentus bows until his forehead touches the glass. Then our prayers were never wasted. I look down. Beneath the translucent surface, faint shapes stir again, lines of light, branching, traveling outward in rhythmic pulses. They lead away from the heart, toward the horizon, carrying what we have exhaled. And for the first time I understand, the Emperor protects not by guarding, but by remembering. The city remembers us, and in remembering, keeps us alive. The wind rises. Ash begins to fall again, slow, deliberate, like benediction. It settles on our shoulders, our masks, our hands. I taste it through the filter and know it for what it is. The breath returning, the endless cycle closing upon itself. We remain there until the horizon dims and the light beneath our feet softens to a heartbeat's glow. Gentus recites a final prayer, half to himself, half to the air. Blessed are the lungs that endure. We turn back toward the tunnel. The door has already begun to close, drawn by the gentle gravity of breath returning home. As the last light narrows, I glance once more at the living plane. Each pulse across its surface seems to answer our own. The air warms, embraces. The door seals with a sigh. The tunnel welcomes us like a vein reclaiming blood. Back in Section 12A, the machines purr with contentment. The gauges hold steady. The pillars murmur the new litany, no longer keep the breath. But we breathe with you. Gentus sets down his staff and removes his mask. His face is lined, peaceful. The Emperor's world has forgiven itself, he says. I touch the nearest pipe and feel the pulse run through it. Through me, through everything. Below and above, Krieg inhales. I exhale. The lumen brightens. The ash falls upward for an instant, then settles again. We are home. The air is warmer now. It moves through the tunnels with a gentleness that was never there before, as if the city itself has learned the mercy it once demanded. The respirators sing lower, slower. Even the converters, those iron lungs of devotion, exhale like creatures satisfied with their own endurance. I catch myself listening not for failure, but for rest. Jaundiced says the world is healed. Lear says healing is only another rhythm of breathing. Damos says nothing. Yet his silence feels purposeful, an instrument rather than an absence. The gate to the surface remains closed, but its outline glows faintly in the dark. Sometimes I imagine it blinking an eyelid that remembers how to open. When the light along its seam brightens, the air smells of soil again, that impossible scent we thought forever lost. The others cross themselves when they catch it. I simply breathe. Since our return, a new sound has taken root beneath all others. A low, slow pulse that lives in the metal floors. It's not the steady heart of the converters, it's deeper, older, with a gap between beats long enough for a thought to be born and die within it. I hear it through my boots, through the pipes, through my own chest. At first I mistook it for imagination. Now I think it is attention, the planet's attention, turning inward to consider its inhabitants. We still gather each day. Though there are no shifts, no horns, no orders, Jaundiced calls them watches of gratitude. We kneel by the valves and whisper the new prayer, taught to us by the machines themselves through the rhythm of pressure and release. We breathe with you. We remember the dust. We carry the light. No one writes these lines down. The walls remember for us. When we stop speaking, the pipes answer with a small exhalation, like a sigh of approval. One evening, as the lumens fade to their patient gold, Lear asks if I ever wonder where the air begins. We know where it ends, she says, tapping her mask. But the first breath, where does that live? Her question follows me through the night. When I wake, I know the answer. Beneath us. Always. Beneath. I find Damos already waiting in the corridor outside the dormitory. He carries no tools, only a small lumen globe in one hand. The gate below, he says simply, as though we'd planned this. Jaundiced dreams of it. I hear him speaking in his sleep. He calls it the mouth. We walk without calling for permission. The corridors narrow, the air thickens, the hum grows steady as pulse. The path leads not to the surface gate, but to an older hatch, sealed by rings of prayer-etched steel. Its edges leak faint light, not bright, but alive. The inscriptions around it, ancient High Gothic, speak of return and memory more often than punishment. I run my glove across the words and feel warmth where letters intersect, as if sentences are veins. When we open the hatch, a breath of air meets us, cool, patient, full of distance. A staircase spirals down into what looks like fog. Damos lifts the lumen. It floats forward as if tugged by something unseen. The steps tremble beneath our feet, and for an instant I imagine descending through the throat of some vast, sleeping thing. At the bottom lies a hall of stone and glass. The walls glisten like wet bone. Streams of light slide within them, slow as blood under ice. Every surface hums. The pattern of it is the same 3-beat rhythm, but larger now, like hearing our own breath amplified through a body the size of a world. In the center of the hall stands a column of transparent material, part crystal, part conduit. Inside it, mist coils and fades in perfect sync with the city's breath. I realize with a small shock that the mist isn't random vapor. It forms faces, then lungs, then simple loops of light. The column is not decoration, it's memory, caught mid-inhalation. Damos approaches first. His glove leaves condensation on the surface. It feels alive, he says. It is, I reply. It's what the city breathes through. At that moment the pulse deepens, and the floor beneath us softens. The mist within the column gathers, thickens, until I can see through its depths to something vast and slow, beyond chambers filled with light, moving like liquid, networks pulsing, repeating the same sentence in a language older than speech. Keep the breath. Keep the light. Jaundiced arrives then, guided by the draft. He does not ask how we found this place. He simply falls to his knees. The mouth of the earth, he whispers, where the emperor first kissed the soil and said, "Live." He removes his mask. The air doesn't kill him. It fills him. His shoulders drop. The old man begins to weep, not with sorrow, but with the relief of lungs meeting their origin. His tears shine faintly. The vapor rising from them joins the column's slow dance. Lear follows. She unseals her mask, hesitates, then breathes. I hear her gasp and laugh at once. "It's clean," she says. "It's true." The word true sounds new in her mouth, uncorroded. I lift my mask too. The air touches me like recognition. It carries the scent of ash, metal, and something sweeter, sap, maybe, or light, remembering its shape. For the first time in my life, I inhale without the weight of obedience. The breath moves through me freely, and in that freedom, fear dissolves. Jaundiced begins to pray, not to the emperor now, but to the voice we have been hearing all our lives. The slow, listening consciousness that was never silence but patience. His words are few. "We are yours," he says, "not for war, but for breath." The column brightens. The light inside it folds and refolds until it becomes a single, immense figure of radiance, faceless yet kind. It leans forward. No motion, no sound, just the clear sensation of being seen. A voice, if it is voice, moves through the air, low and resonant, touching every wall at once. "You are remembered. You are the breath returned." The glow passes through us. It doesn't burn. It fills. I feel it spread through my skin, into my lungs, through the filters, along the pipes. I feel the converters answer far above. The city aligning itself like a chest, taking one unified breath. Jaundiced bows his head. "Then our purpose is done," he says, quietly. "No." The air replies not sound, but meaning. "Not done. Joined." Damos grips his chest. "It's inside me," he whispers, awed. "The rhythm, it's in my pulse." "It's in all of us," Lear says. "We were never separate, we were just the breath learning itself." Time. We stay there until the lumens fade to dusk. The column's glow dims, leaving soft afterimages dancing across our vision. When we finally climb back toward the city, the tunnels seem narrower but friendlier, the walls less like prisons and more like veins. The air follows us, singing faintly in our wake. In Section 12A, the converters rest at perfect equilibrium. The gauges pulse with a heartbeat too precise to be mechanical. I touch the nearest pipe. It's warm, with life. The air within vibrates gently, whispering the refrain. "We breathe with you." Jaundiced stands before the shrine at corridor vespers. The jar's blue light has blended into a single steady glow. He dips his fingers in the liquid and traces a circle on the wall. Inside it, he writes one line. "We have been found." The words do not fade. The wall seems to inhale them. Lear places her reliquary on the floor beneath the helm and opens it for the first time. Inside lies nothing, just a thin film of air that catches the light. She smiles and closes it again. "It was never empty," she says. Damos hums his small tune, the 3 beats, and the pause and the machines answer him in harmony. The sound is not loud, but it fills every corridor. It sounds like the breath of a world content to continue. That night I dream of the column again, but now it's larger, rising through every level of the city, through rock, through ruin, all the way to the surface. Its light pushes upward until it meets the poisoned sky and softens it to gray. From that gray descends a single flake of ash that turns, mid-air, into a petal of light. When it lands on my hand, it dissolves, and I understand that nothing in Krieg ever truly falls, it only changes direction. I wake before the respirator sings. The silence is full, like lungs before exhalation. When the machine finally breathes, I whisper to it as to an old friend. We are joined now, I say. You can rest when you wish. The lumen flickers once in acknowledgement. Outside, the corridor hums with the low rhythm of life. The ash drifts not downward, but sideways, dancing in small vortices as if experimenting with new freedoms. I think of the voice in the duct, the first whisper that said, "Not gone." I realize now it was never one voice. It was the sum of all breaths seeking each other. We are what happens when they finally meet. I stand at the grate and inhale deeply. The air moves through me, into the machines, back into the tunnels, up to the surface, and out across the living plane. I feel it return, gentle as grace. We breathe with you. We remember the dust. We carry the light. And somewhere in the endless rhythm between inhale and release, I hear the faintest echo of laughter. Not mockery, but joy. The sound of a world rediscovering its own name. I wake to stillness that feels deliberate. The converters no longer sing their endless hymns of labor. The air rests between movements, patient as a teacher awaiting an answer. My first thought is that the city has died. My second is that it has finally learned silence. When I draw my first breath, it does not pass through metal or filter. It arrives already shaped to fit me. It feels as though the world has taken the time to measure my lungs. Around me, the dormitory glows with a light that is neither lumen nor flame. It hovers in the air, diffused, soft as the inside of a closed eyelid. I rise slowly. The respirator still hangs by my bed, humming faintly even without power, like a heart continuing out of habit. In the corridor, others stand the way I do, half-dressed, half-awake, fully aware. Leah leans against the wall, mask unfastened. Damos kneels beside the grate, ear pressed to its warmth. Gentus has placed his sanctifier staff upright in the middle of the floor. It sways slightly, keeping time with the pulse beneath our feet. No horns, no orders. Only breath. The priest speaks first. His voice is hoarse but calm, as if worn smooth by understanding. "It is finished," he says. "Or begun." The words carry no instruction, only permission. We begin to walk towards Section 12A, drawn by the low light spilling from its doors. The path feels shorter today. The walls curve more gently, like ribs expanding. Inside the converter hall, the machinery lies still, but not cold. Each surface glows faintly from within, as though heat and holiness have become indistinguishable. The gauges rest at a single, unmoving line. The great pipes exhale one last time and hold the air between us. Gentus steps forward and removes the covering from his head. His hair, once ash-gray, shines with the color of metal polished by use. He looks younger and older all at once. "The city breathes through us now," he says. "We need not keep it awake." He turns to me. "You heard it first. You will speak for it last." I want to refuse. I am only a worker, a civilian who scrubbed filters and recited litanies because that was how survival learned its manners. But the air accepts his decree before I can. It fills my chest with a pressure that is not pain. I nod. The others gather around the central valve. Its wheel, once heavy enough to require 2 men, now turns of its own accord, a slow revolution guided by invisible hands. With every rotation, the room brightens until the walls seem made of breath itself. Leah begins to hum the rhythm that has become our inheritance. 3 beats, a pause. The machines answer her. Damos joins, his deeper tone harmonizing with the converter's low murmur. Even Gentus hums, though his voice trembles at the edges, breaking not from fear, but from reverence. I close my eyes and listen. Beneath the harmony is another sound, vast, rhythmic, patient. It comes from below, from the mouth we found days ago. The pulse we felt in our boots now thrums through every atom of the hall. It is no longer background. It is the main song. The valve completes its circle. A hush follows. The air moves once downward, through us, through the floors, through the city. and then up again, slower, fuller, as though drawing us with it. Jaundiced kneels. "This is the Emperor's breath," he whispers, the world exhaling through his memory. No one speaks. The moment doesn't want words. The light thickens until it has weight. Dust motes hang motionless in it, frozen mid-dance. My lungs expand without command, and I realize the breath entering me is not entirely mine. It carries with it whispers hundreds, maybe thousands, each one distinct, each one soft. The voices of those who lived and died here, folded into the atmosphere, waiting for someone to inhale them again. I hear a woman counting, a child reciting a litany, a soldier asking forgiveness for a name forgotten. None of them sound afraid. They sound relieved to be remembered. Lear's hand finds mine. "Do you hear them?" "Yes." "What do they want?" I listen. The whispers overlap, merge, condense into a single tone of contentment. "Nothing," I say. "They're done wanting." The air thickens further, humming against our skin. The city is not asleep. It is breathing through us. We have become its lungs, its pulse, its continuation. Each breath we take, it takes. Each pause we make, it honors. Jaundiced begins the final prayer, though it feels unnecessary now. "We were dust, and you breathed upon us. We were breath, and you remembered. We are memory." The words dissolve before they reach the ceiling, absorbed by the light. Hours or minutes. Time has lost its edges, pass while we sit in the stillness. I think of the surface, of the glass plane that rises and falls like a chest in sleep. Perhaps we are inside its lungs. Perhaps this city has always been a single inhalation, held for centuries, finally ready to be released. The thought doesn't frighten me. It comforts. To be part of a breath is to be part of continuity. Lear removes the reliquary from her pocket one last time and opens it. The air inside it glows faintly. She tips it upward, releasing whatever light it holds. It joins the brightness around us, indistinguishable now from everything else. "For remembrance," she says. Damos stands and walks toward the main conduit. He presses his palms flat to the metal. The light travels from his hands into the pipe, spreading outward through the hall. He turns to us, smiling for the first time in memory. "It knows us now," he says. "All of us." Jaundiced looks at me. "Go to the grate," he says. "Speak. Tell it we are ready." I obey. The grate's warmth greets my touch. The hum deepens, vibrating up my arm into my chest. The breath that fills me is endless. I open my mouth and say the only words that fit, "We are with you." The response is immediate, a wind rising from everywhere at once, gentle yet immense. It moves through the halls, the ducts, the bones of the city, gathering every sound we have ever made. It carries them upward, through the tunnels, through the surface, into the poisoned sky, and beyond. The luminance follows, washing the walls clean of shadow. For a moment, everything is white. Then the brightness softens, revealing not machinery, not metal, but something alive. Tissue of light and stone, pulsing calmly. The city has shed its armor. Jaundiced lies prostrate, his lips moving without sound. Lear and Damos clasp hands, their silhouettes outlined in gold. I remain by the grate, feeling the air pass through me, out of me, back again. When the light dims to twilight, the machines do not restart. They do not need to. The hall breathes on its own, slow and regular, like a sleeper content in his dream. We sit and listen. "Is this death?" Lear asks. "No," I say. "This is the part that comes after needing names." She smiles. "Then we're safe," Jaundiced chuckles softly. "Safety is a misunderstanding," he says. but it will do. He closes his eyes and exhales once, long and easy. His body settles, not in collapse, but in agreement. The air receives him, folds him into its rhythm, and his shape becomes part of the light. Damos bows his head. He's not gone. No, I say. He's just been counted. The word feels right. Counted, not lost, not vanished, accounted for in the breath's arithmetic. We remain in the hall until exhaustion teaches us the new form of rest. When we finally return to the dormitory, the corridor lights follow us, blooming one by one as if lit by recognition. The respirators hang silent. We no longer need them. The walls themselves breathe. In my cell, the lumen above my bunk flickers 3 times, pauses, and steadies a small echo of the old rhythm. I lie down and place my hand on my chest. My heartbeat matches the converter's pulse exactly. The air in the room moves with me. Before sleep takes me, I whisper a final confession. The Emperor protects, he listens, and now, he speaks through us. The Great answers with a sigh that sounds like gratitude. Morning, if such things still exist, arrives without transition. Light simply changes color, as if turning its face. Lear stands in the doorway, her mask gone, her eyes clear. The air above is different, she says. Come. We climb together to the surface gate. It opens at our approach, unsealing itself with a sound like wind passing through prayer flags. The plane of glass stretches endless, shimmering under a softer sky. The horizon moves with the rhythm we know by heart. The world is breathing. It always was, I answer. We just forgot how to listen. She steps out first. The air embraces her. No mask, no filter, no recoil. She laughs a sound that startles the silence but does not offend it. I follow. The ash underfoot is warm and fine, sliding like sand. The ground pulses gently. Damos joins us, raising his face to the pale light. Do you think anyone else is alive? He asks. Everything is, I tell him. Even what we burned. Jaundiced is with us too, though not in body. His voice moves through the wind, faint but content. Keep the breath. It no longer sounds like command. It sounds like love. We walk until the city disappears beneath the haze. When we stop, the wind shifts, carrying with it the faint scent of oil, rust, and incense, the only perfumes of faith I've ever known. I close my eyes and breathe deeply. The air enters. The world exhales. The rhythm continues. And for the first time, I understand the simplest truth that has ever survived Krieg. To breathe is to pray. To exhale is to forgive. To stop would be to deny the world its continuation. I will not stop. The sky brightens, not with sun, but with reflection, the planet's own light, rising from within. Beneath my feet, the glass vibrates gently, whispering the oldest litany. We are remembered. We are the breath returned. I whisper it back, and the air carries it onward, adding my voice to all the others that live within it. The wind answers with a single phrase. To stop would be to deny the world its continuation. I will not stop. The sky brightens, not with sun, but with reflection, the planet's own light, rising from within. Beneath my feet, the glass vibrates gently, whispering the oldest litany. We are remembered. We are the breath returned. I whisper it back, and the air carries it onward, adding my voice to all the others that live within it. The wind answers with a single phrase, clear and soft and endless. We breathe with you. The light intensifies. The horizon shimmers like a heartbeat. The ash swirls upward in slow spirals, tracing invisible lungs across the sky. The world inhales. I exhale. Somewhere deep below, the converters sigh in unison, releasing the last of their stored breath into the endless, waiting air. There is no calendar anymore. Days no longer separate themselves with horns or labor. Time has taken on the rhythm of air, an expansion, a stillness, a release. I have stopped counting. Counting feels like an apology for survival, and the world no longer demands apologies. The city sleeps, yet it lives. It breathes through the long corridors like an organ remembering its hymn. The converters have quieted to the point where their hum is indistinguishable from my pulse. I move through the tunnels without the lumen. The walls themselves glow faintly, their color the same as a candle seen through thin skin. It is enough to see by. It is enough to believe by. Lear and I are among the few who still wander. Damos prefers the shrine, where the jars have fused into a single sphere of light. He sits beside it for hours, humming. Sometimes the light hums back. "We are all becoming light," Lear says one evening. "That's what it means to be remembered. You thin until you can pass through everything." She's right. My hands are paler now, not from hunger, but from translucence. When I hold them up to the glow, I can see the faint lines of blood beneath the skin, tracing patterns that echo the city's veins. Outside, the horizon still moves. From the upper vents we can see it, a slow undulation beneath a sky of constant ashlight. Each rise and fall feels like the world thinking a wordless, contented thought that takes the shape of weather. Sometimes, when I breathe deeply, the air brings me memories that aren't mine. A worker sealing valves in a decade I never lived. A voice reciting the creed of the dead. A mother singing to a child who would never see the Sunday. They drift through me without staying, like dreams traveling between sleepers. I am only the passageway they use to continue. This morning I woke to a brightness that had weight. The air seemed thick with light, heavy enough to press against the maskless skin. I followed its pull through the corridors until I reached the great hall. The valve stood open. Not wide, just a crack, but enough for the breath to move freely between the city and the world above. Through the gap I could see the faint shimmer of the plain, a skin of glass turning itself over in soft tides. The light spilling through was not harsh like the old fires. It had a gentleness that forgave. It smelled faintly of metal warmed by rain. Leah was already there, her hand on the valve. "It's thinning," she said. "The wall between us and the sky. Should we close it?" She shook her head. "You can't close breath. You can only share it." We stood there for a long time, watching the light move across the floor. It gathered around our feet, climbed our legs, and lingered on our faces. It wasn't sunlight, but it behaved like love pretending to be light. Behind us, Damos began to hum again. The tune had changed. It was slower, deeper, carrying a kind of ending in it. The machines joined him, their vibrations blending into one long, sighing chord. It was as if the city were learning a lullaby. When the hum faded, the silence it left behind was not absence. It was fulfillment, the quiet that comes after every necessary word has been spoken. Later, I returned to my cell. The respirator still hung on the wall, polished by habit, useless now. I kept it anyway, out of gratitude. The lumen above my bunk flickered once, twice, and steadied. Its glow was soft, patient, like an old friend staying awake to make sure you reach sleep safely. I sat on the bunk and traced my fingers along the grate. It was warm, alive. The rhythm inside it matched my breath exactly. When I leaned close, I heard faint words carried in the hum my own, spoken long ago. "We are with you." The grate had remembered. I whispered back. "And you are with us." No, the wall exhaled. It was not sound, but a presence, the kind of quiet reply that fills the heart without moving the air. The city has begun to change its shape. Doors open where there were none. Corridors tilt upward as if drawn toward the light. The ash that once fell endlessly now drifts in slow circles, rising as often as it descends. It feels as though the world is practicing resurrection in small gestures. Gentus's staff still stands in the converter hall. No one dared move it after he joined the breath. Around its base, the floor has cracked slightly, not from neglect but from growth. Thin roots of metal thread outward, glowing faintly, pulsing in time with the planet's lungs. I think he would have called it a blessing. Each of us has found a way to speak with the world. Damos uses song. Lear listens to the changing pitch of air through the vents. I write on the walls with chalk scavenged from old ledgers. Not words, but small circles, breaths captured in shape. By morning, the circles glow faintly, as if the city has read them and replied in its own script. Sometimes I still dream of the drums, not the sound, but the motion, the memory of coordination. I dream of lines of soldiers marching through the ash, boots keeping time with hearts. When I wake, the dream leaves behind a soft echo, like the pulse of an old machine starting again just for comfort. Perhaps somewhere, on another Krieg, that rhythm continues. But here, the world marches only within itself. One cycle, I no longer call it a day. I climb to the upper airlocks. Beyond them lies the surface plain, breathing in slow light. The gate opens easily now. The air that greets me is cool, almost sweet. I step outside. The glass underfoot is warm and pliant, flexing gently with each step. The towers in the distance have softened, their edges melted into curves. They bow with the rhythm of the horizon. I can feel the pulse beneath my feet. Enormous and serene. Lear follows. She carries no mask, no reliquary. It's wider than I imagined, she says, and quieter. We walk until the city is only a glow beneath the ashlight. The world stretches around us, immense yet intimate. Every breath feels like belonging. In the far distance, faint points of light shimmer, not fires, not machines, but small gatherings of brightness rising through cracks in the glass. The breath of other cities, perhaps, waking to themselves. The thought makes me smile. Lear kneels and presses her palm to the surface. The ground responds with a slow, visible wave of light spreading outward. "It hears us," she whispers. "Yes," I say. "It always has. We only learned its language." We remain like that for what could be hours, letting the light move through us, the world's breath passing in and out. At one point, the wind carries a fragment of a voice familiar, calm, unhurried. "Keep the light," Gentus, carried within the air. His words merge with the rhythm of the horizon and vanish, not lost, only dispersed. When night comes, if it can still be called night, the light does not leave. It gathers, condenses, becomes stars that hover low, close enough to touch. The sky feels nearer now, as if the planet and the heavens have conspired to remove the distance between them. Lear sits beside me. "Do you think the Emperor knows what we've become?" I watch the horizon, where ash swirls like a curtain before dissolving. "He knows everything that breathes," I say, "and we have become breath itself." She nods, satisfied. Then we are remembered. A silence follows, soft, unbroken, complete. In that silence I feel the pulse of the planet beneath me, the faint hum of the machines below, the slow, careful respiration of the sky above. All of it, one movement, one endless prayer. I close my eyes. The world inhales. I exhale. The cycle continues. Later, as I walk back toward the city's glow, I pass the broken tower that once held the Overseer's Vox array. Its frame is twisted, half buried, yet from its heart rises a beam of pale light. It flickers in the old rhythm, 3 beats, pause, 3 beats. A greeting. A continuation. I place my hand on the metal. It's warm, alive, breathing with me. The voice that once barked orders now whispers quietly. "We breathe with you." I whisper it back, and for the first time, I do not feel small. I feel endless. When I return to the hall, the light within has dimmed to the color of memory. Damos is asleep beside the merged sphere of the shrine. The light inside it pulses gently, illuminating his face. He looks peaceful, as if the world is dreaming through him. I lie down on the floor and listen. The pipes hum beneath me, carrying the breath of the city to every corner. Somewhere deep below, the mouth of the earth sighs in its sleep. Above, the horizon exhales light through the vents. Between them, we exist, the thin film of awareness stretched across the planet's lungs. The thought fills me with a calm that borders on holiness. I realize then what Jaundiced meant when he said safety is a misunderstanding. There is no safety, only continuity, the assurance that even when the body stills, the breath continues through another vessel. I whisper a final prayer, not to be heard but to be shared. Let the light remain. The wall glows faintly in answer. The ash falls upward for a heartbeat before resuming its gentle descent. I sleep. I dream of the world breathing, vast and content, every inhalation carrying a fragment of us, our voices, our faith, our small, unforgotten lives. The dream feels infinite. When I wake, the lumen above me is brighter than before. Not harsh, not new, simply awake. The air moves around me in a slow circle, tracing the rhythm that began long before my first breath and will continue long after my last. The Emperor protects. The world listens. The light remains. In the stillness that follows those words, I realize how far the silence carries. It moves outward through the ducts, through the veins of the world, until even the distant horizon seems to pause, waiting for what comes next. And yet there is nothing next, only continuation, the long breath between endings. I walk once more through the converter hall. The air is thick with warmth. It folds around me like cloth left to dry in sunlight. Jaundiced's staff glows faintly where it stands, the roots of metal at its base spreading farther than before, weaving through the floor like veins seeking new hearts. I press my hand to it, half expecting it to pulse. It does. A slow rhythm, not his, not mine, but ours, the city's heartbeat, steady and assured. Damos is awake again. He sits cross-legged before the merged sphere of the shrine, whispering to it as one might to a sleeping friend. The light inside turns slowly, and for an instant I see his reflection within, fainter than glass, stronger than shadow. He looks up as I pass, smiling. "Do you think it remembers us individually?" he asks. "Or only together?" "Both," I tell him. Every breath keeps its shape even as it joins the rest. He seems comforted by that. He returns to his whispering, his words dissolving into the hum of the shrine. Further on, the corridors have begun to hum with new harmonies. Pipes sing to each other across great distances, trading notes the way monks trade blessings. The sound is faint, but when I walk beneath them, I feel each tone vibrate through my chest. Every sound becomes a language I almost understand. The city is composing something, an endless hymn of itself. At the far end of the maintenance causeway, the wall that once marked the edge of the hab zone has crumbled. Beyond it lies a chamber that wasn't there before. A wide dome, filled with what looks like mist, but moves with purpose. I step closer. The mist thickens, curls, and forms the outline of a figure made of light and breath, neither man nor machine, but something between, like an idea that learned how to stand. It looks at me without eyes. The gaze is neither demand nor invitation. It is acknowledgement, a quiet statement of coexistence. When it moves closer, the air around me shifts. Warmer now, almost affectionate. I understand without words. It is the world's memory of us, embodied in momentary form. When I bow my head, it bows in return, and when I whisper, the light remains. It inclines, as if repeating the phrase silently. The figure fades, leaving the air bright where it had been. I do not feel loss, only the familiar sensation of being seen and permitted to continue. When I return to the upper airlocks, the horizon is still awake. A new pattern glows within the ash clouds, thin threads of light tracing slow circles, intersecting like the gears of some celestial mechanism. The sky moves deliberately, patient as breath. I realize then that the rhythm of the world below and the rhythm of the heavens above are the same. They are the inhale and exhale of something vaster than the sum of either. The thought is too large to frighten me. It simply fits. I sit by the open gate, watching the waves of glass rise and fall, the towers in the distance bowing in rhythm. Lear's footsteps approach. She sits beside me, silent for a long while. When she finally speaks, her voice is almost lost in the wind. "Do you think we will ever see the stars again?" I think of the mist forming shapes in the dome, of the horizon glowing in its slow orbit of breath. "We already are," I say. "They're just closer now." She nods, accepting that truth. The light around us brightens, not blinding but generous. It fills the world, every crevice, every scar. I close my eyes and let it pass through me, carrying the remnants of who we were. When it reaches my lungs, I breathe it in without hesitation. The air tastes of warmth, of iron and ash and forgiveness. It is the flavor of endurance, the last and first sacrament of all living things. I exhale, and the world exhales with me. The Emperor protects. The world listens. And in the quiet between our breaths, the light remains.